Yo, what is up? It's JJ from 845, and this is Frame Explain. And so while I will proceed after this episode on individual images and what it takes to make those images specifically, I did want to give a quick overview as far as how my photo shoots go. And so my photo shoot that I'll be going over is actually my wife and our daughter's trip to Tahoe yesterday. And so it was baby girl's first trip to the snow. And I want to go ahead and kind of peel back a little bit in terms of how I proceed and how I go about the post-production of a photo shoot. And so the first thing I do want to bring up is this really cool and free app for the Mac, and it's called Haste. And it's a way to kind of template your folders. And so for me, the biggest crux of like any assets is essentially organization. And for me, I like to have my stuff organized into essentially having a Lightroom catalog, because my photo shoots, I actually create a single Lightroom catalog as opposed to having one giant catalog. Then the next folder is having a raw folder, which I contain all of the original images, and then the folder for edits, and then a folder for web, which I'll kind of go into later. But the way that works is, again, you can figure out and how you want to assemble your templates. And so for me, I go ahead and build a Lightroom catalog, and I actually need to update this because it's 2020 and it'll be 2021. Plus, I actually need to change the name Lightroom because there was a typo. So I'm going to make that 2021. Then I have a folder for raw, as mentioned. And so in here, I list all of the cameras I do have, and whichever that I'm not going to be working on for that photo shoot, I just go ahead and delete. So in this case, it's actually the Leica SL that I brought yesterday to Tahoe. And then under edited, there's a folder for selections made by the client, and then also selections made by myself. And the last one is web, because I won't get into that only because I'm not going to use it. But typically it would be, if I'm going to go ahead and deliver any web friendly file. So things that are about like 1920 by 1080, or anything that's kind of just smaller than the usual original file photos, because they can get pretty big. So I already went ahead and deleted the other folders as mentioned. So these are all the full the files from the shoot. And because I already finished the entire edit, this will be a really quick, or rather I hope to be a quick overview of the whole process. So when I do import the files, they obviously will have the original file names, which is going to be this, and that goes into this folder. The next step from there is I bring it into Photo Mechanic. And for me, the first process is culling the photos first. So once I have everything in here, I start to go ahead and just quickly browse through them. For example, I'll open this. This is literally the first frame that I took yesterday. And I'll go over it and I'll press T for tag, and that'll actually denote it with a little check mark. And because I already went through this shoot per se, this is actually the deleted ones. So out of the 300, I think it was like 84 photos, I went ahead and marked already, how many is this? 110 photos to delete. Even with personal photos, I want to make sure that I'm just going to go over the ones that I truly liked, and then I go over it again to mark the ones that I truly love. The ones that are marked truly love are things that are kind of destined to be published, to be shared online, to be posted, and or to be delivered ultimately to the client. The things that I like is just me to cull it down, and from the 384, I want to be able to narrow it down. The next step after going through the entire take is then going over it again and then marking the photos in Photo Mechanic with a star rating. There are other photographers that kind of go with 1 star, 3 star, 5 star. For me, it's just 5 star, like all or nothing. It's either going to be really good or just really not good enough that you're not going to show. So for me, if you can see right here, I went ahead and marked this one 5, and I'll just go over the roll, right? I'll flip through them, and Photo Mechanic again is really great because it's pretty fast, especially working with raw DNG files. And like this one, for example, I marked 5. This one I didn't, but her half expression with Kieran Ray probably could have just marked this to be deleted. But again, I'll go over this and I'll mark it for 5. At the end of that, I'll import the remaining photos into Lightroom. And just to backtrack a little bit, For me, I typically will actually delete all the ones that I know that I'm not going to use. In this case, what I ended up doing was, after marking all the photos with the T for tag, so again, once you go to, let me go to the deleted folder, and you can select the view for a tag. So these are all the photos that I knew that I'm going to delete. And for this example, I'm not going to delete it, but instead what I did was I went ahead and just moved it to a deleted folder. And you can do that by doing Command A to select everything, and then you can copy and move photos. So I actually went ahead and did that already, because again, I already finished this edit. But you'll see that under the raw underscore SL, that's the Leica SL, there's a deleted folder. So really this folder is meant to be deleted, but just for this scenario, I'm not going to delete it, because there are some people who are like, well, you have space for it, memory's cheap and whatnot. But in my perspective, in my opinion, if you're not going to use it, what's the point of keeping it? So, but yeah, up to you. And just in case if you have a deleter's remorse, you have your files over there. So again, that's just the interface with Photo Mechanic to either move the photos to a deleted, or you can just delete it in the program directly. So the cool thing about Photo Mechanic and Lightroom is that they play well together. So anything that you've marked with a 5-star, for example, and you can also do colored labels in Photo Mechanic, that'll actually transfer over to Lightroom. And because again, I already did that, I'll go ahead and change this view to the star view. So if we were to backtrack, I had 384 photos, and this photo shoot was really like a 45-minute window span. And within that 45 minutes, I took 384 photos. So really the point here is, what are your keepers? And then to go even a step above there is, can you tell a story, or if you're going to share this, can you tell a story with less photos as well? So within those, the 384 photos, let's see, let me just take this view. I ended up with 82 photos that are keepable, right? So I went from 384, deleted that, and now I'm into 82 photos. Then to take a step further, as I mentioned with Photo Mechanic, I went and starred the photos. So with 5 stars, I ended up with 25 photos. And then that step further is, can you tell a story with less photos, which I marked with, again, Lightroom, the shortcut's up to you, but in Lightroom, if you press 6, that'll change it to a red label. And that's just my system. It either goes 5 stars, then it goes into my selects. So if I press 6, you'll see here, if I press 6 on the keyboard, I went ahead and changed this to photographer select. If again, if I'm working with clients and they tell me they like another photo instead, me pressing 7 or making it yellow marks it as client selects. So for now, I'll keep that with photographer selects. And then in the view, I'm going to change it right over here. So as I mentioned, of that 25, I ended up just like the cream of the crop was 17 photos. So, you know, it just takes practice when it comes to culling your own photos. How do you figure out, you know, what looks best? For me, it comes down to kind of just a gut feeling, like what looks best when you're comparing 2 frames that were literally like seconds apart or even like milliseconds apart. So these are the selections that I made. I went ahead and edited them already, and I can kind of show you a little bit as far as what I did in this particular photo set. Under the develop module in Lightroom, there are certain things, for example, like I have these presets from Visco before they went mobile. So these are like a vintage set, so to speak, of Visco film filters for Adobe Lightroom. And, you know, they look great. Like, for example, this one, the Fuji 160C, that's the after, and this is before. But to even peel back, again, what the raw photo looks like, if I press the back slash button on the keyboard, this is actually the raw take. So this is before, and then with my edits, again, this is not using the Visco, but just more of touching on exposure, the blacks, the vibrance, saturation, color, white color balance. This is the after. So lately, I've been likening the the file colors in itself, and then just kind of massaging that as opposed to slapping a filter on it. But again, all about taste. All depends on, you know, what you like. So for me, I went ahead with this type of edit. Just kind of boost up everything, make it a little bit brighter, a bit more warmer, add more contrast, again with the vibrant saturation. One of the tools I really like with Lightroom is the individual, I guess, the color balances that you can do with this. So for this one, if I turn this off, you'll see that her skin, it's not that bad in this particular photo, but I went ahead and just adjusted the orange balance on the skin tone. So that is a -6 on saturation and a +4 on luminance. So it's not like a set formula, but I kind of just slide with it and just see kind of what looks best. And from there, what makes the edits a lot faster in Lightroom is you select one photo and then you select the last photo and then you press sync. And from here, you can go ahead and just sync all the settings that you did from that one photo to all of them. And because I already did that, I already went and exported that. The one thing that I do want to show, again, just like a quick overview of a family photo shoot, is I do Photoshop, and you know, for my friends with their families, I essentially would take the best photo of the parents, and then I would find a really good expression of the kid. And this one, for example, you know, Kieran Ray is, you know, 8 months, so it's really hard to get her attention. And I shot this with a tripod, so really hard to get her attention to be looking at the camera. So instead, I'll be using Photoshop to essentially blend together, using this as a plate, and then finding, you know, a good photo of her face that's smiling and looking to the camera, and putting it onto there. So I'm gonna take, let's deselect first. I'm gonna go ahead and take the last photo, so these two, and the one photo that I ended up using as a plate was this photo. So I took her scrunch up face over here and I put this in Photoshop. So I'll show that to you right now. So here's the face that I love of Kieran Ray, and here's actually the face that I like of my wife Cherry. But I ended up using another shot of myself. And so let me go ahead and actually just hide all the layers first. And I'll start with the raw photo. So this photo, when I import it in Lightroom, actually carries over the edits that I did with Lightroom. So all the adjustments that I made in Lightroom is over here. And what I did instead was I put the other face of Cherry on here. And what I do with this one is you can just create a mask, right? And I'll show you briefly as far as how I've done that. So I would take the photo that I know of her face that I would want. I would just drag this over. Okay. I would select the opacity to about like 50%, just so I can roughly see that face. And I'll put it over to the one that I essentially want to cover. Pressing 0 is 100%. Goes back to 100% opacity. And then I will create a layered mask. So you press Option, press and hold it while selecting the mask button, and you'll have a black mask over here. You use your brush, change it to white, and now you're essentially painting that face. So I'm gonna do this really rough because again, I already finished it. And you see that I'm painting the face. If you press the backslash button, you're actually able to see that mask. And black is actually painting it back. So white is to reveal that photo that I just dragged on top. Pressing the backslash will go back to regular view. And that's the face. So it's a little confusing now only because I just put the face that I wanted onto the edited version already. But just to show you, right, that was the before and that's the after. So it takes a little bit in terms of tweaking and just kind of brushing it in. And now for Kieran Ray, obviously she's not looking, so I took that photo where she was smiling when I was holding her up, right over here. The same thing, I dragged and dropped it onto this file, and then I put a mask. And if you can see that actually, let's see if I can show that. So there you go, and you can actually even see that I did a poor job of her nose. So let me go ahead and fix that right now. Pressing backslash will reveal that again. So here's the before and after. So there's some, you know, discrepancy on the head right here, or rather the head bonnet, but you know, at a glance, it's fine. And then, of course, just trying to match it and make sure that it fits the original photo. The photo, when I'm raising her up, the light is on this side, right? So over here, that carried over, but it doesn't match the scene. So I ended up just using the burn tool. That's over here. Pressing O is the shortcut, and I press the burn tool, and I essentially just painted that. So I'm gonna do that right now. And then I'm gonna, oops. I'll do that over here. Makes it darker, right? But I'm just gonna undo it. But now it matches the scene basically in terms of the lighting to make it look more realistic. And now that I'm done with that, I'm gonna do some global edits. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit brighter. So that's the after. Here we go. So it just adds a little bit more of a contrast and a tonal curve with this action that I've set. So that's before, and then that's after. And the trick that I've learned from one workshop is just adding like almost like a fake sun, just super subtle, and it's basically creating a layer that is set on screen mode. So if you look at the blend modes, this one's on screen. And if you see that right there, so right the top right over here, that's before and that's after. And that's essentially just using the brush tool, and I have it set with like a light orange and orange. And I'm just painting that on top. That's pretty much it. And you just change the blend mode to screen, and then it kind of blends it a little bit more. And you can be more subtle. That's 60%, by the way. This is 100, but 60% was good for me. And after this was done, there's some distracting elements that I wanted to remove. So I went ahead and just used the patch tool. That's this tool right here, where you just select certain things. Like there's a little dark spot right here. So you can just select that. Oops, make sure that your layer is active. Okay, it'll remove that. And then there's even this pole as well, which I'm gonna remove. And I'm actually used for that part, I actually just use the content aware tool, which is under edit, and then content aware fill once you select that area. And so for me, this image is looks pretty good. I mean, again, I'm not really printing this, so I'm not too worried about making it sharp. But even before I continue, I'm actually gonna just change our redness here, probably because of Kieran probably was grabbing Cherry's neck. So again, that's the patch tool to remove that little blemish. But if I were to, typically before I post anything, I'll sharpen this. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and just select all these layers, and then I duplicate everything and then flatten it. Just right over here. If this was, I guess, like a client, I would be more organized with the layers. But again, once I create this, I'm just gonna trash the PSD file because I'm not gonna revisit it or need to come up with further edits. So I'm gonna flatten that, and then I've made an action where I'm using high pass sharpen. And if you look over here, what that essentially does is it'll create a layer and then it'll apply the high pass filter. And then from there, it'll just change the opacity. So I'm gonna press play on that. It's an action that I made. So you'll see, I'll zoom in, maybe on me. That's before, that's after. So before, after. And that's at 40%. So this is just to show you that's 100%, which looks pretty gnarly on my pores and all that. So 40 or 30% looks pretty good. Again, this is before and after. So at that point, I'm pretty much happy with the edit. I'm gonna go ahead and just save this. I usually denote my files as edit. And I'm gonna make sure I'm in the right folder here. That's under edited, and then JPEG. 10 quality for me has been fine for the past few years. And that's pretty much it. If there's one little thing that I'm looking at, it's my finger right here. So now I'm like, huh, is there another one where my fingers are not like that? And that one. So let me just show you, since I already edited the this photo, let me just show you then how I would do that. So I'm going to edit this in Photoshop. It's going to open it with the adjustments that I've already made. So now I'm going to, because I have had this layer, again, what matters on Photoshop is the topmost layer will go over everything. I'm going to make sure that when I put my hand, I'm going to replace my hand, it's going to go over the layer that's a little bit further down. So maybe I'll put it above this part. Press and hold Shift, so it's it goes completely on it. The layer that is. Did that go through? Oh, because here, let's delete. There we go. All right, so there's my hand. So obviously this is not aligned, right? But again, all I really care about is this hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that, make a mask. Now I'm going to paint my arm, and we're gonna see how this pans out. Because looking at the difference here is I'm bending my arm and on my knee rather. So let's just paint that in, see how this turns out. Oops, I went a little bit further. Again, if you press the back button, the backslash, you can kind of see where your mask is at. So again, all I copied from the other photo was just my hand, and now I have to change my knee. But now that looks better than the distracting hand with my finger that looks like it's missing. All right, so let's see. Looks good to me. So I'm gonna go back into copying everything. So therefore I could apply the high pass sharpen. I'm gonna delete the edit that I just saved. So that is 113, the last photo. I'm gonna save this. Make this the edited one. See what I edit. It's a JPEG. And there you go. So just gonna make this bigger. So hopefully with this episode, again, it's a really quick overview as far as my process of grabbing the raw files, culling it in the Photo Mechanic first, flagging the ones that I'm going to delete, which I do delete, and then starring it with a 5, which are my essentially keepers, importing that into Lightroom, where I mark it as red, or pressing 6 as my photographer selects, and then edit those as essentially the cream of the crop. If I do get from a different selection from the client, I'm marking it with a 7. And again, you can change the colors and change the names as the client selections. And then I edit it from there, which is a combination of Lightroom and then Photoshop, more specifically for the manipulation part, which I just showed with how do you change faces and arms and whatnot by combining different photos and essentially making your perfect image. So thanks, guys. If there's any questions, comments, leave them below. But for sure, I'll be having more of these as I go along with 2021. And again, really less so about a whole photo shoot, but just kind of boiling it down to one image. And again, this is Frame Explain, and hope to see you guys back here.